what do you do if you've manifested the unexpected, or also said what you don't want? That's exactly what we're talking through in this podcast. This is Ariana Rollins, and you're listening to Mindful Manifesting. Apologies, I've been on a 3-week break, not really by choice. Rebuilding my health. Maybe I'll share more detail in the podcast. But let's start with, if you haven't got my Kickstart Your Manifesting Journey, there's a wonderful guided meditation and workbook that I still use this today after 20 years. It's practical, and there is magic in writing down all your desires and intentions and just letting it go. All right, I think you'll like it. All right, go to mindfulachiever.com and you can get it there completely free. All right, so manifesting the unexpected. Something happens that takes you by surprise. You didn't see it coming. Maybe it was a breakup. Maybe it was an unexpected illness and there were no signs. Maybe it was, I've got to move, if you're renting and the owner is selling the property. And you're like going along, life's good. And you're like, where did this come from? And initially, if you're like most humans, you resist it. You don't want it. And what happens is that the longer we stay in that resistance, this shouldn't be happening, that we slow down the insights. We slow down the growth. I know, it's not easy. It's not easy to resist. Oh my gosh, I think we have to be superhuman to not resist something happening that we don't want. Because manifesting is all about bringing in what we do want, right? Well, in this episode, we're going to go into 4 things for you to consider. And I invite you to, if you have something recently or you're in the middle of going through something right now that this is not what I wanted, then I invite you to play with that one. Or if it was a big one, a few years ago, then bring that to mind. Because the more awareness, the more growth, the more juice we can squeeze out of an experience, the better off we are. The more our eyes are open, the more prepared we are for the unexpected. And it's like, oh, okay, this too. All right. So let's start with, first, pause. Do your best to have no reaction and record insights as they come up. We'll go into more detail right now. Let me give you these 4. 2, take full and complete responsibility, accepting what is. Easier said than done, my friends. I know that. 3, watch out for any blame or criticism so you can get the nuggets of change, why this is happening. And sometimes you may not see it right away. All right. And then 4, do your best to have a long-term perspective, a longer term perspective. All right, first, pause and record insights. So when something happens, maybe it's shocking, all right? And you're in the middle of I didn't see this coming. Pause. Do your best to not react and respond emotionally. Here's why. You're going to need all your energy. You're going to need all your resources. And energy, if you look at it, emotion is energy in motion. So if we waste that powerful manifesting force, your emotions, on something that is, we're We're feeling fear, anxiety, negativity. Well, we have just burned up maybe some vital fuel that we could use to navigate and steer to a more positive outcome. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Not saying it's easy to pause, because our initial reaction is, what? And we don't want it, and we think, naively so, I will say this, we think that we could push it away. We could push it away with our reaction. Just like you've heard me many times talk about the Australian Shepherd, and they can be prone to being sensitive, they're highly intelligent. Well, what I've learned about this dog is that when we're out walking and he sees a person or an animal he's not familiar with, not real close to, doesn't know, he barks. And basically that bark is saying, I don't know you. I don't know what you're going to do to me. So I'm going to bark to scare you away first. Okay. So that reaction takes us out of the present moment. If he were more evolved, let's say, he could just be curious. Be curious. So if we could switch reactivity for curiosity in that first phase, it can really help us. It can help us ride through the journey, because no matter what, it's happened. It's happened, right? So, next one we're going to go into is accept. 2, take full and complete responsibility. Now, am I saying that, oh, you caused the car accident, that you caused the illness, that you caused the breakup? No, I'm not saying that. Because when we get to number 3, if you go in to, well, I'll explore it in number 2. If you drop into negative emotion like blaming and criticizing yourself or the other party, what happens is you're lowering your vibration. And way back when I was studying how to be a natural health educator focused on essential oils, one of the things that I discovered in my research, that there is a machine, Tamayo, it's the name of the man who built this machine, and he could measure frequencies. And he was able to measure the frequency of certain essential oils. He measured them by hertz. So rose, for example, has the highest hertz at 320, if I'm thinking correctly, 320. And not all essential oils have to be at the highest hertz at all. Some you want grounding, you want in the physical body, like trees, and they help with our lungs and breathing. But some you do. Some you do want to raise the vibration of the body. One of the things that I really like about Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, he flat out says, illness is a lowering of frequency of the body. So raising our frequency is really important, but we can't do that with blaming or criticizing. It's a very victim mentality. Very victim mentality, and it lowers our frequency. I don't know what the hertz is on that. I'll just speak a little bit about hertz, because with this Tamayo, it's very interesting. Tamayo. Oh, I may have the M or N mixed up. Is that he measured the energetic frequency of a human who had a common cold and a human who had cancer, and measured a healthy human. Now, it takes a lot to drop the frequency where we would develop cancer in our body. Human cold's pretty easy, but it was a drop in frequency, and I'm not going to misquote the numbers, but it was around 60. I think it's, I don't know a healthy human, and that's the one I'm sorry I've forgotten, but it's around 60 or so, 62, when our frequency drops to, and we get a cold. And to develop cancer, the frequency is dropped to in the 40s. So you can see this is not an overnight thing. Our frequency drops over time. And am I saying that the frequency drop could affect and create outcomes that we don't want? Possibly. I would say with illness, it's quite likely. It's quite likely. And I could say for my own experience, looking back over the weeks that preceded the sudden infection that there were no symptoms and all the things that ensued from that, is I had no awareness, no conscious awareness until these 3 weeks of reflection and like, whoa, my frequency was low. How I was thinking. I was blaming outside events and circumstances. And normally that's not me. But dropping to a lower frequency doesn't happen. It's not an overnight thing. We get used to it, kind of like the frog in the water. When it's cool and then it starts to turn warmer and warmer and warmer, the frog would definitely immediately jump out if it was put in very boiling water. We all would. We don't know that kind of dialing down, holding back what we need to say, holding back and not making those changes, and frequency drops. Now, I'm going to just touch on this, and we'll go into a little bit more when we go into 3 and 4, is how does this relate to manifesting, you might be wondering. Well, in my experience, teaching manifesting and experiencing and witnessing it myself, is that manifesting comes from a pretty high vibration. Pretty high. So if we are at a lower vibration, we're either not going to be creating and manifesting what we want, or potentially we're creating things that are going to, quote unquote, wake us up, get us back on track. So manifesting is not just about writing down what we want, but it is about, where's my state of awareness? Where's my state of consciousness? Where's my emotional state? And watching that like you would self-care, like you are aware of what kind of food you put in your body. I don't know what your diet is, doesn't matter, but that you're aware that this food feels good, nourishes me, right? So same with that. If you think about your thinking and your feeling, this feels good, this nourishes me. But just like the frog, we can get used to that negative or critical or blaming, and that feels normal. That's become our normal. And turning up the volume of feel-good frequencies and emotions may not feel normal. It may feel alien. And that's an interesting thing, because the longer we're in that negative spiral, the more that feels comfortable. And the more that something feels comfortable, if someone comes with, something new that could shift us, we may reject it. And this is a funny story. This is really funny. So it was many, many years ago. And I was going through a bit of a depression time, middle of a relationship, probably 15 years ago. And I didn't know how to change things. And I remember one of my favorite essential oils that I used to wear as a perfume, because it had rose in it, it had jasmine in it, both high frequency oils. It's called Joy. And I would put it on my wrist and I would smell it. And I remember calling my best friend at the time, and I was putting Joy on my wrist, and I'm like, what happened to Joy? Did they change the formula? It smells like ant spray. Isn't that funny? Exactly what I needed was joy. And I put it on, it smelled like ant spray. It smells joyful now, if you wanted to know. So our body can reject the very thing that could be a healing, could be a blessing for us. All right, let's go into 3 a little bit more. So get the nuggets of change. Now, usually we start to get little awarenesses of things that would be good for us to change. But we're like, I don't have the time. Or that's going to take too much effort. And so we dismiss it. I tell you, I was getting some inklings, and if I look back, maybe I would say warnings of things I needed to change. And I'd forget about it. or it's like, I don't have the time right now. One of them, silly as it may sound, was to shut off all media and by about 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, do some gentle yoga, maybe put some music on, and it was prepping me for a better night's sleep. And I kept thinking, that's such a good idea, Ariana, such a good idea. Did I do it? No. Did I do it after the health crisis? Oh, yeah, I am. And I can see why my intuition or my true self was guiding me, because it's a wonderful way to move into sleep. And I'm not saying you have to do all these different rituals, not by any means. But if you get an idea and that feels like a good idea, I invite you to write it down. Don't forget it. And maybe realize that something is urging you to feel better. Something's urging you that, I really do need to change my diet. And we don't have to go like massive changing of our diet. We can let one thing go, one thing. Or we can bring one thing in. I think it's this all or nothing that we get trained with, that if I can't do it all, I'm not going to even try. I'm going to forget it. And I think that's something we really have to scrub out of our consciousness. Because there's a phrase I keep sharing with my students right now: progress over perfection. Progress over perfection. And of course, I'm speaking to myself, my friends, right? Always, always. So that number 3 is get the nuggets of change. What are you being urged to let go of or bring in? And you don't have to do it all at once. Just record it, put it in a little notebook, don't forget it, and then maybe look at it. Do I have the bandwidth to make that change right now? Sometimes we don't. But if you do, I invite you to do it. There is something about making positive changes proactively, that it builds up our confidence and fills us with a new sense of self-discipline. Look at me, I did that. And it makes our light, our inner light, shine brighter, turns up our frequency. And again, how does that help manifesting? Because when we're vibrating at a higher level, then we are a magnet for what we want. We're a magnet for what we want. All right. So number 4, have a longer term perspective. Now, I'm sure you could look back maybe at a relationship that ended in your 20s, or maybe you could look back at a job that you were let go of, or I don't know, maybe something just a few years ago. And if you have that awareness, maybe if you write down your insights, you might look like, oh, that needed to happen in order for this to happen. And we kind of put together this golden brick road. We start to piece together the things that had to get out of the way to make space for what it is we truly want. Because left to our own devices, we're just creatures of habit. We'll roll out of bed on the same side every day. We'll walk to the loo. We'll make a cup of coffee, and that starts our day. All right? Like it's the engine's in gear. But what if we rolled out of bed on the other side of the... I can tell you, I'm trying everything. I'm doing that right now. Sleeping on the other side of the bed. Rolling out of bed on the other side. And then letting go of having my morning be perfect. If I don't get to something, just know that I'll have a little bit of time in the afternoon to get to it. I think that's one of the graces of what I've been going through. And maybe I can invite that word in now, is manifesting through grace. And grace starts with not resisting what is. If we've manifested the unexpected, the unwanted, grace starts with just a little bit acceptance, just a little bit. We don't have to embrace it and jump up and down, but just know that life has our back. Just know that things are unfolding for our highest good, because we can look back with that longer term perspective and see that's why this had to happen. If it didn't, I wouldn't be here. And if you can take a moment just to do that reflection, I know we're all so busy. But that reflection can keep our vibration higher because we're getting the lessons and don't have to wait for that 2x4 alongside the head. All right. Hope you got something, a gem out of this podcast. I do hope to be back every week, and apologies for that 3-week break, but I just didn't have the energy. You might even hear it in my voice now, a little bit softer, and that's okay. All right. So remember that if you would like to start to manifest with grace without that forcing and pushing, go get your Kickstart Your Manifesting Journey at mindfulachiever.com. So much love to you. Thank you so much for listening. And lastly, remember, as you confirm yourself, you chart your own path to success. As you confirm yourself, not waiting for the outside world to recognize you, validate you, see you, but you validate you. You chart your own path to success. So much love. Bye for now.